Boxing Truth here. I had to talk a little bit about Chris Eubank Jr., who is currently in heavy training right now for his next fight against Tom Duran on June 25th. In a very stacked card that's promoted by Eddie Hearn and Matchroom Boxing, they're putting on a very deep card with recognizable names, especially for British boxing. So something for the boxing fans in the UK to look forward to at the end of the month, as June 25th is going to be a heavy night of boxing from across the globe. But when it comes to Chris Eubank Jr. and how he's showing a lot of interest all of a sudden in fighting Triple G, and perhaps he is the most serious of the prospective opponents that Triple G is being discussed with, like Canelo Alvarez, Billy Joe Saunders, Zerto Ramirez, and Chris Eubank Jr. In my eyes, right now, Chris Eubank Jr. is the most serious about fighting Golovkin. However, Eubank Jr. he's not being serious about fighting him next, though, in my opinion. I believe him when he says he'll fight him this year, though. I believe him when he says that he will fight Golovkin this year. However, I don't see that fight going down in September or October, according to what Eddie Hearn is stating in his recent interview with Kugan Cassius. He was talking about that right now. He gave an update on the Eubank Jr. Golovkin situation, and he was saying that they're in discussions with Tom Loeffler, Triple G's promoter, well, the manager of K2, and they're discussing the terms for a potential fight in September or October, but Eddie Hearn was not 100% confident that the fight will happen in September or October, potentially, but perhaps possibly later in the year in December. And that's a familiar tune what the Eubanks have been saying, especially Eubank Jr. in some of his interviews that I've been watching. He's been giving mixed messages to the boxing public, saying that he'll fight Golovkin in September, that he's 100% serious, that he wants to fight, that he's 100% confident that he can beat him, that he feels he has the style to beat him, he feels that Golovkin is not fast enough, and that he'll be able to outspeed him and also outpunch him. He'll be able to throw more punches and bunches and land more shots in between, as he doesn't feel Golovkin is fast enough to compete with himself, Eubank Jr. But he's been stating in a multitude of interviews that he wants 2 fights. And in other interviews, he'll say he wants to fight in September. So, in my eyes, I see Eubank Jr. wanting to fight at the end of the year. He wants 2 more fights, 2 warm-up fights, 2 stay-busy fights, and then take on Golovkin later in the year. Because I really doubt Eubank Sr. is going to be confident enough to put Eubank Jr. in a fight with Triple G following a fight with Tom Duran, who's no world beater. He's fought no one at the world-class level. He's an underdeveloped prospect, still developing on the job. And in many boxing guys' eyes, guys in the UK, in the industry, they see it as a complete mismatch that Tom Duran's not at the level where he can compete with Eubank Jr., and Eubank Jr. should not be fighting this level type of a fighter, pretty much a British level fighter. Now, Eubank Jr., he hasn't beaten anybody at the world-class level. He's beaten solid fighters. He's beaten some strong guys at the British level. And he has this close loss to Billy Joe Saunders, but he hasn't fought anybody at the world level. But most people would agree that people that follow him have watched his career that he's definitely a world level fighter. He can compete with the top middleweights, not named Triple G. And also, people will say, respected writers even, that Eubank Jr. has the best style to perhaps give Golovkin his toughest fight, potentially out of all the middleweights being discussed for his next fight, like a Billy Joe Saunders, Canelo Alvarez. But I believe Eubank Jr., when he says he will fight Triple G this year, he's just not going to fight him next. I don't see that fight happening in September or October. I just don't see Eubank Sr. pulling the trigger for Eubank Jr. for a fight with Golovkin is following a showcase bout against Tom Duran, and it depends on how he looks. I mean, what if he struggles with Tom Duran? You can't talk Triple G that you want to fight him and you struggle with a British level fighter. Nah, man, you can't do that shit. But I see Eubank Jr. taking that fight later in the year, as I could see that being Golovkin's next fight after his September fight. That's his next scheduled date, according to Tom Loeffler. He will fight on that date, whether it's with Canelo or not. But Loeffler, like as he always does, he's planning ahead. He's making sure that he has at least one big name or a lucrative fight, a lucrative opportunity before the year is out, as the plan for Golovkin is to perhaps move up sometime in 2017, as it's pretty much he'll have all the straps. There hasn't been I haven't heard much about Billy Joe Saunders, any discussions on there. I've heard, the last I talked about it, they were in negotiations. Loeffler's in negotiations with a number of fighters, and he's discussing with a number of promoters. He's pretty much mapping out Golovkin's future and his near future and trying to get some lucrative fights penciled in before 2016, and also get a lucrative fight penciled in for 2017, as the Zerto fight is a great possibility for next year. So they're just pretty much just planning out Triple G's course. And the Eubank Jr. fight is a big fight for Golovkin, but he will have to come to the UK. Eddie Hearn will say that it's a bigger fight for Golovkin compared to a Billy Joe Saunders. Saunders has the hardware. He has the strap, the last strap that Golovkin wants. But Eddie Hearn says that Golovkin will make a lot more money fighting Eubank Jr. in the UK, and that it will be a possible stadium fight if they can make it happen, depending on the logistics, the date, the timing, that it will be that type of a fight. And it's pretty much why Loeffler and Golovkin have expressed interest in fighting Eubank Jr., because he's one of the bigger draws in the UK. He's a big name in the UK. There's a lot of buzz when he fights. He's an exciting fighter. And it's a fight a lot of people will like to see. And a fight that's very desirable for Golovkin because of the numbers involved. Eubank Jr. doesn't have a strap, doesn't have any hardware, but he'll bring bigger money, even compared to a undisputed middleweight title fight with Billy Joe Saunders for all the marbles. But I don't see that fight happening next. Eubank Jr. and Golovkin in September. As Eubank Jr., I believe, wants one more fight after Tom Duran. He needs to fight a better opponent than that. If he gets past Duran, which he should. I don't see Duran much of a threat at all. But we'll see on June 25th. And whether Eubank Jr. is the most serious out of Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders. As it's crazy as Saunders and Eubank Jr. are trying to one up on each other and show more balls than the other by stealing the Golovkin fight from each other. But we'll see what happens. Can't wait to get more details, confirmation of who is Golovkin's next opponent. Naturally, you would think it would be Saunders, but I haven't heard much. Haven't heard much of the negotiations there. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe when it's quiet, maybe that's going to be the next fight for Golovkin, and then he'll fight Eubank Jr. in December, which is, I believe, is the preferred scenario for the Eubank family. But we'll see what happens. Maybe Canelo will be serious. Will re-enter negotiations with Loeffler. It's really a toss-up who is most serious about fighting Golovkin next. But I believe Eubank Jr. is the most serious about fighting Triple G in 2016. But maybe I could be wrong. Maybe Billy Joe Saunders will step up in September and fight Golovkin. But y'all let me know what y'all think. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.